Brothers and sister, friends, supporter, everybody in YouTube, all the support my video, all the support my work and everything like this. Today, we try to do a new video, and we've been talking about the former President Donald Trump a lot, and then we keep follow everything what's going on with him, what is going to go, how it's going to go, blah 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 blah, and everything like this. But sometimes I did say that I say I didn't support because I don't understand what's going on every day. A new thing coming out every day, the new thing coming out every day, new thing coming out. So therefore now it's like a couple days from primary election from GOP party and for nomination who's supposed to be run against President Joe Biden for November 24th this year. So we keep follow everything. So it's like every day the former President Donald Trump, something coming out day by day, every day. And then what I see what now, and honest with you, it's something to me what now, where that gonna go. I mean, it's politics, but on the last minute, Colorado and Maine, right? It's a state, right? They kick him out the ballot, and this is about 34 states try to do the same thing, but a lot of them still stand by, but like four of them now is kick him out the ballot, and then he tried to restore everything. So we don't know what's going on. So I'm going to let you listen to the video. Please, once again, share, like, subscribe. Please, once again, share, like, subscribe. And a lot of my friends, you guys comment and support me in a video. All you do is like you comment, you probably watch the video for a couple minutes, then you walked away, you don't do the like or the thumbs up. Please do that, guy. Give it a full support. Share, like, and subscribe. I'm going to let you listen to the breaking news from CNN about the former President Donald Trump. Listen to it, guy, and I will be back. Don't forget, share, like, and subscribe. Share, like, and subscribe. Thank you so much. Much love for you all. Thank you, guys. Thank you so much, guys. Listen to it. Breaking news.
And he is going to the U.S. Supreme Court to try to appeal the decision made by the Colorado Supreme Court to remove him from its 2024 ballot for engaging in insurrection. Let's get right to CNN's Paula Reed, who is here with me. I have some breaking news for you. A brand new court filing from Donald Trump. This time he is going to the U.S. Supreme Court to try to appeal the decision made by the Colorado Supreme Court to remove him from its 2024 ballot for engaging in insurrection. Let's get right to CNN's Paula Reed, who is here with me. Paula, I know you got a big stack of papers that you just printed out a second ago, but what can you tell us about this appeal?
I move fast. So 2 weeks ago, the Colorado Supreme Court removed Trump from the ballot. Now that decision is on hold because previously the Republican Party of Colorado appealed this decision to the Supreme Court. So he will appear on
the Colorado Supreme Court.
To the United States.
The U.S. Supreme Court, okay.
So that the Colorado decision is on hold. He's expected to appear on the primary ballot. But we need clarity for all 50 states in this country about this issue.
Because it's been popping up elsewhere.
Yeah, it's been
Maine, maybe in Oregon.
New Hampshire, Minnesota, Michigan. And while most states, besides Maine and Colorado, opted to keep him on the ballot, they left the door open to relitigate this. So the Supreme Court is under a lot of pressure to weigh in here. Trump has now officially filed his appeal. And here they're asking the court, this is a direct quote, did the Colorado Supreme Court err in ordering Trump excluded from the 2024 presidential primary ballot? Now, the Republican Party was a little more articulate in the questions that they posed. They want to know specifically, does Section 3 of the 14th Amendment apply to presidents? That's an important question because even within the state of Colorado, the courts were split there because the word does not appear. We need clarity on that. The Republican Party of Colorado also asked another important question, which is, okay, if this applies to presidents, who enforces it? Is it the states, which is what we're seeing play out across the country, or is there a role for Congress? That is not one of the questions presented explicitly in this appeal, but it's baked in. We need clarity from the Supreme Court. Now, we could get an answer at any time about whether the Supreme Court wants to take up this issue, but they now have two separate appeals on this case, one from the Republican Party of Colorado, one directly from the Trump legal team. to take up this case, possibly hear oral arguments, and hopefully offer some clarity to the country. This is what they do, Jake. They settle disputes among the states and they clarify constitutional controversies.
Have you been suffering from
Council
So-
trying to try President Trump for what he did on January 6th, and the Trump people have been arguing, hey, I have presidential immunity for anything I did as president.
Yeah.
And Jack Smith says no and has asked the Supreme Court to weigh in. They said no. But Trump has also filed another court filing on this presidential immunity claim.
So our theme of 2024, Jake, is going to be all roads lead to the Supreme Court. This
Yes.
is likely an issue, but the Supreme Court has opted not to weigh in here. Instead, next Tuesday, there are oral arguments on this issue. And late last night, the Trump team filed a brief reiterating the arguments they have made. They insist that for 234 years, presidents have not been prosecuted for the actions that they have taken in office. We know a lower court has already held that, look, what we're talking about here was outside the scope of your official duty. And we saw the special counsel in the past few days say, look, if we allow presidents absolute immunity for anything you do while you are president, we know that people are going to undertake criminal activity to stay in office. We can't have that. Now, the entire election
That's a good
subversion
argument,
case.
by the way.
I mean, it is pretty good. Every once in a while they come up with something. But look, even former members of Trump's legal team have said the immunity argument, it's not a winner. What they're trying to do here is delay. And so far, they're successful. This entire case is on hold until this immunity question is resolved
By the appeals court.
by whatever the final court is. If
Okay.
the Supreme Court wants to take this up, they've already passed once. They were asked to just interject, answer the question.
But they said, no, we're not going to do
Yeah,
it.
they said, no, we're
let
gonna
it play out in the
Let
in
it
the lower
play
court.
out.
Yeah.
We're not going to step in. I mean, that's notable. Jack Smith was really hoping they would step in. They opted not to because Jack Smith wants to put this trial on before the 2024 election. We're going to have oral arguments on Tuesday. They're moving very quickly. Then the Supreme Court can weigh in however they want. They can also opt not to. And then we need to look at the calendar and figure out, does Jack Smith have enough time to put this case on before the 2024 election? Timing is everything here, Jake. With the Supreme Court appeal on ballot eligibility, it's surprising it took Trump 2 weeks because we need clarity as soon as possible. On this question of immunity, timing is of the essence because it's really a question of, will you be tried before or after the election? We don't know. It's unlikely he's going to win on immunity. The bigger question is, will you see the inside of a federal courtroom before the election? One of his former lawyers put it at about 50-50.
All right, Paula Reed, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Let's talk about this now with former lawyer for Trump, Tim Parlatore. Tim, so good to see you. Happy New Year. Why do you think, first of all, this is maybe kind of like an insidery question, but it is something that is stumping all of us. Why did it take Trump's legal team, do you think, so long to appeal that Colorado Supreme Court decision to ban him from the ballot? Because, frankly, I thought that they were going to move more quickly.
You know, I would have expected them to move more quickly too. I don't have any specific knowledge other than, as you know, one of the reasons why I left that team is interference, from other people. So I could imagine that, this was definitely litigation by committee of going back and forth with drafts. And I mean, Dave Warrington, who filed the brief, is a very smart lawyer. I would expect him to do good work and do it fast. But if he's being interfered with by others, then that would delay it.
Who are the others that interfere?
Well, in my experience, it was people related to the campaign, like Boris
Epstein. Yeah. Do you think the U.S. Supreme Court is going to take this up?
I do. It's a situation where you have a significant split between the states of an issue that really does have vital national importance as to whether people in different states are going to be given the same choice as to who they're allowed to vote for president. So I think that, if there is ever a case that falls squarely within the mission of the Supreme Court to solve these issues, this is it. So I can't imagine them rejecting it.
Well, God forbid anybody badmouth the Founding Fathers, but I did read the relevant section of the U.S. Constitution, and it doesn't say how it gets decided whether or not an individual engaged in insurrection.
Correct. In the Section 3, it's pretty silent as to that. Section 5, it says that Congress shall be the one to enforce this. And, the way that I've looked at that, Congress has done two separate things to enforce this. They've passed 18 U.S.C. 2383, which is the insurrection ban. That specific statute does provide for a prison sentence. It also provides for permanent barring from public office. It actually expands on who it applies to beyond what the 14th Amendment has. but it requires a federal criminal proceeding. The other thing that
Wait, you know why we try to go to everybody, what everybody say, what could happen, what could not have be happen, and I feel like the former president is in a really bad shape, really in a bad situation, and pretty much last minute, and I think on the 15 they're gonna have an election within the party GOP to see who can be nominated to take on President Biden on this year election through November 2024. But let's see, let's listen and see what's going on. We don't know. We can tell nothing. Yep.
Congress can do and that they have done in this case is they can apply impeachment proceedings. President Trump was impeached for insurrection, and in fact Nancy Pelosi was very open at the time that the reason why he needed to be impeached and tried after leaving office was to keep him off the ballot in 2024. He was acquitted. So that's another thing that Colorado is going to have to overcome, is that Congress has already actually taken action on this.
This provision of the U.S. Constitution has been, and correct me if I'm wrong here, you're the lawyer, not me, but it has been used before, I think against public officials that engaged in the Civil War, I believe, on the
Sure.
losing side. But I don't think that.
So to show you gotta understand everything what's going on, and I don't make it, but you listen to it, you make your own decision. I don't think, to me the way I see it, to me it's like they try to do everything they can for him not to get a chance for re-election. That's the way I see it. I mean, I don't know if it's that way, but that's the way I see it. You guys might probably see a different way than me, but that's the way I see it. They try to do all they can to keep him off the ballot for 2024 election. Let's move on.
More than $370 million from former President Trump and his co-defendants in the civil fraud trial. Letitia James also looking to bar the former president from doing business in the state.
Let's bring in CNN's Kara Scannell. So Kara, what are you learning about this filing?
Yeah, so these are the closing argument briefs that were due today in this civil fraud trial. And the Attorney General's team is now saying that they are seeking more than $370 million. When they sued Donald Trump, they initially sought $250 million. So they're significantly increasing the amount of money that they want to recover. And that's all that they say were improper gains that Trump had received. And they prove this, they allege, through the evidence presented at the trial. Now, in addition to seeking to bar the former president from serving in a business in New York for life, they're also seeking a 5-year ban on his sons, Donald Trump Jr. and Eric Trump. And what the Attorney General's office argues is that their intent to defraud was inescapable. They say that the myriad deceptive schemes they employed to inflate asset values and conceal facts were so outrageous that they belie innocent explanations. Now, Trump's team has argued that their financial statements were accurate, that there's no evidence presented in this case that the bank would have given them different interest rate terms had they gotten different financial statements, or the values that the Attorney General's office argues were the accurate values. The judge has already ruled in this case in a summary judgment motion that the financial statements were persistent and fraudulent. And the issue now for him is to decide how much money the Trumps would have to pay and whether there is a ban. But there are also 6 other claims that the Attorney General's office is pursuing, and that's why it went to trial. That's a conspiracy claim, insurance fraud, falsifying business records, and issuing false.
I have faith in them. People like Kavanaugh who held to get into place. He'll step up. Those people will step up, not because they're pro-Trump, but because they're pro-law.
If I'm Brett Kavanaugh, I'm like, okay, well, you just put me in a box. Not that it matters. They are lifetime appointments. But so it's the notion of immunity. And then, of course, the question of whether or not he can
be kicked off the ballot in Colorado and Maine and anywhere else?
Well, first of all, I think it's a pretty dangerous game to be predicting what nominees who were appointed by someone are going to do. That just seems like it's courting trouble. But having said that, I think these are two fundamentally different questions. Number one, does the sort of Maine approach or Colorado approach, does that make it through the court? But the other is the question, the broader question of presidential immunity. Can someone who ever served as president ever be held accountable for something they did in the waning days of the presidency or afterwards? And I think, to me, the way the court thinks about one question is going to be completely different than the way it thinks about the other. And legal scholar after legal scholar has said, if every president is immunized forever against anything they ever do because they were president, it would invite like the worst presidents, basically in the future of the United States, because people would run to basically try to immunize themselves for everything. So I think the court has a ton of really complicated stuff to figure out.
That's pretty much exactly what everything I say about the former president. And then everybody probably feel like what he did is wrong, but he feel like because he was the president and whatever he do, they cannot prosecute him for it. That means whatever he does, he's right. But if you believe, if you're right, what if somebody does it? I mean, I understand the Constitution of the United States probably give you privilege to do so, but that don't mean you have to violate the rules of the country. You're here to enforce the rule. So that's why I'm still a little bit confused and what is going on with this thing with the former president Donald Trump. Guy, we're going to try to bring more. We're going to try to find more and more everywhere to bring it to you so you can listen to it. Don't forget, guy, please share, like, and subscribe. Don't forget, share, like, and subscribe the video, guy. Show the will support.
Time to decide it. The trial court, that is Judge Tanya Chutkan, who is presiding over Donald Trump's election interference case for trying to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election, nothing can be done in the trial court. Basically, everything is put on hold while the appellate court has it until the appellate court resolves the issue. So during this sort of downtime, Jack Smith has done a couple of things. One, he continues to give the defense attorneys, Trump's defense team, what's called discovery, evidence, continues to provide it on the belief that, look, you're going to want to have this evidence sooner rather than later because eventually you're going to trial, so the more time you spend with the evidence, the better prepared your client will be when the trial date ultimately rolls around. So Jack Smith and his prosecutors have been giving additional discovery to the Trump defense team. They filed a brained assertion that Donald Trump is a king. He has absolute immunity from prosecution and he can commit any and all crimes he wants while in the office of the presidency. The appellate court has that right now. What does that mean? While the appellate court has it, while they're taking time to decide it, the trial court, that is Judge Tanya Chutkan, who is presiding over Donald Trump's election interference case for trying to overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election, nothing can be done in the trial court. Basically, everything is put on hold while the appellate court has it until the appellate court resolves the issue.
Yeah, guys. To me, I feel like it's what is going on for former President Donald Trump. I think it looked like things going on really in the wrong direction for him. And the last minute, they still try to fight. They still try to convince. They still try to get him go there. That means they try to keep him busy. And myself, I feel like they try to take him off the ballot. They try to make sure he's not running for re-election again, and he never become a president of the United States again. That's the way I feel. I don't say it's this true, but that's the way I feel. And they try to do everything they could on the last minute to put him down. If they be able to do it, I'm not sure. I don't know, but they try to do their best. And what they say about him, guys, it is really true. A lot of them is true. And no doubt about it, it's true. But you got to respect your country. You got to respect your law. You got to respect your constitution. So let's see what's going on. Let's see how things gonna go.
Were just filed in the New York Attorney General's civil fraud case. The New York Attorney General's office is asking for approximately $370 million in disgorgement damages against Donald Trump. In the case, Donald Trump's lawyers are saying that Trump should have to pay nothing. New York Attorney General Letitia James also
is the biggest election year in the history of the world. Election year. 40 elections happen at the same time. The largest Christian nation, the two largest Muslim nations, all at the same time. 40 plus countries, 3.2 billion people will be voting this year. Will be allowed to vote this year. $44 trillion of GDP all this year, right? So we're talking Pakistan, election this year. India, election this year. US, election this year. Belgium, I can go on. There's 40 countries, elections this year, right? When there is so many, things going on, the people who have had control behind closed doors that we don't know, what do they fear? They fear losing control, okay? And the number one piece amongst all these 40 elections going on around the world, 3.2 billion people potentially voting, the number one domino, not the second domino, the number one domino is a guy named Donald Trump, okay? So if he gets elected, the people who control can't control him.
Correct.
Because a lot of these other guys can be controlled. So for a voter that's sitting there, I looked at Vox, came out and said 55% chance Trump's going to be the president. Vox is not a conservative side. They're liberal. They're predicting, saying 55% chance Trump's going to end up being president this year. So walk us through. I called 2023 the year of investigations. I called this a year and a half ago. It was all investigations 2023. I'm calling this the year of chaos. I think it's going to be chaotic. It's going to be crazy.
Yeah.
How crazy, how chaotic could it get? Or do you think, no, it's going to be pretty, temper tantrums. Oh, so Nevada's coming out and they're going to, coming out there. They're just yapping and screaming and hollering. Or could it actually get very, very ugly for the American people to brace for impact?
I mean, I wish I could give, this is what I always say. Look, I know a lot more facts than I can share. And the facts are good. So, meaning, the witch hunts, let's start there, right? So the number one way that we've seen them try and take him down, the chess piece, is through legal cases. And that is what I know. And without getting into facts that I know that'll come out, it's no different than any other case. When you know the facts as an attorney, and you know what actually happened behind closed doors, and you know what he did and didn't do, not what the press is saying he did, not what the Jack Smiths are saying he did or want you to believe he did, the real facts, the fear level comes down a lot. Then it becomes very simple. We have to be able to fight a corrupt organization. That's what it is. It's corrupt. And that's where my fear only lies, in that I'm in front of judges that we can give them the facts and they are clean. Look at my last trial I just ended. But if you have a judge who wants to get Trump, wants to take him down, wants to be a part of taking the chess piece down. If you have this Maine woman, I don't even know her name, that's how little I care. What's her name? Whatever. You have this woman wanting to be a lawyer, wanting to be a part of this liberal radical movement. And we don't have the ultimate court, the Supreme Court, check these people. That's when we're in trouble. But I do still have faith in the Supreme Court. So I think that right now for Donald Trump, for taking that piece off, it all goes, frankly, up to the Supreme Court, because everything we're talking about is election interference.
Oh my God, yeah.
Listen, there is.
Oh, what a genius.
No. Go ahead. Please finish. I want to finish your thoughts and I have a follow-up for you.
Yeah, but I think that we have to remember that everything we're worried about with Trump is legal. There's a reason his lawyer is his spokeswoman. It's because it's all being used in courts and through laws, Constitution. It all goes up to the Supreme Court. And I really believe there is a checks and balances that still exists in this country. The executive branch, is one person, but we all know that there's 100 other people behind it right now. But the Supreme Court stands independently, and that's on purpose. And that's the way our founding fathers created it. So I believe that they will handle it. I believe that, look, what Jack Smith just got shut down. He was trying to rush. They said nope. So as long as they stay firm, I have no fear, because I will not win every case. Let me be very clear. You cannot.
You cannot. You have people that are not listening to what you're saying. I'll get in court and I will say there were no victims. Deutsche Bank made money. Letitia James is using a completely inappropriate statute. Here's the facts, and here's a Nobel executive expert who's going to tell you that this is complete BS. And the judge will go, no, that's fine. I'm going to lose. That's fine. But I need the Supreme Court to be the one that has the reason, the one that holds America together right now. That's where I think this country needs to be strong.
Okay. By the way, just think about it. So Trump's first president that flips 3 seats, right?
Yeah.
Say he doesn't.
That's all I was just gonna ask.
If he doesn't flip those 3 seats, you're asked out.
Yeah.
Literally, right?
Yeah,
I'm
screwed.
Yeah, you're screwed. There's nothing, by the way, nothing he can. So paint a picture. Say the Supreme Court is, 6-3 the other way around, whatever, 5-4, 6-3 the other way around, okay? And you don't have any protection there. How ugly could it have gotten for the president if Supreme Court was the other way, flipped 6-3?
Look, if they have it their way, they would have him in jail.
That's what I'm saying. So
If you need me to say it, I'll say it. It's absolutely true. They would have him in jail because they can't, the movement, the American movement, it's not a MAGA movement. It's an American movement. It's people afraid of losing our country. And it's a movement because I'm scared. I'm scared of what I've seen, and that is the problem. And that's why they get behind Trump. So if you can't beat him, if you're worried that stealing an election.
That's why we want to hear, guys. So, and you could say 50% chance he might get to it. Maybe 48% chance he might say everything might be okay for him. But let's say 55% probably say no, it's not going to be okay. That means if it's going that way, that means what she just said, he can be end up to jail, guys. So I don't make the news. I bring it to. I tell him. I make sure you listen to it, guys. Don't forget, share, like, and subscribe. So we go all over. We're going to listen to everybody. So to bring you the news about the former president Donald Trump, where they're going to go, how they're going to end up, how's it going to go for him. Let's listen to it, guys. And go have to move to the next one. This guy, listen to
The
this.
Supreme Court could come as soon as today. The justices expected to decide on the future of Donald Trump's candidacy for president. He remains the current Republican frontrunner. Trump on Wednesday appealed the decision from Colorado's Supreme Court to take his name off the Republican primary ballot there. The nation's highest court has never before issued a ruling on Section 3 of the 14th Amendment. Whatever the justices decide to apply to Colorado will apply to all other states. That includes Maine, where his name has also been barred from the ballot. That decision also remains on pause pending a decision on Trump's appeal there. Just yesterday, petitions were filed in 2 more states, Massachusetts and Illinois, to take Trump's name off the ballot there. And the list of states could continue to grow until the Supreme Court weighs in. And while those close to the president say he is concerned that the Supreme Court might ultimately rule against him, his attorney, Alina Habba, says he has nothing to worry about. Here she is on Fox News.
I think it should be a slam dunk in the Supreme Court. I have faith in them. People like Kavanaugh, who the president fought for, who the president went through hell to get into place. He'll step up.
Joining our conversation, former top official at the Department of Justice, Andrew Weissman. Ian and the Rev are also back with us. Andrew Weissman, what do you expect to happen here?
Well, I can tell you 2 things that I'm going to be looking for. I think the most important thing is obviously, whether they take the case or not. But I think, everyone thinks that they will take the case. I think they pretty much have to, even if I think they probably privately wish this wasn't landing on their plate. But I think the main issue for people to be thinking about is what do they set as the schedule? How fast are they going to require briefing? When will they hear this? As you noted, Alicia, there is a stay in the Colorado case. There are ballots that need to go out in Colorado and obviously many other states. And so I'm going to look for how quickly are they going to decide this. The second thing is, are they going to give any hint in granting cert, in other words, accepting the case? They very often say these are the issues presented, or are they just going to give a sort of general grant that says, we're going to review the legality of the Colorado Supreme Court's decision? That's not typical. It could happen here, but they may give some clues as to what they're focusing on by how they grant cert in this case.
All right, so Ian, that is what we're watching for from the court. Let's talk a little bit about Donald Trump and his team. We often talk about the ways in which he operates like a mob boss, the way that he sends messages, perhaps not directly, but through surrogates. The fact that you have Alina Habba showing up on Fox one day saying he's worried that this court is not going to rule in his favor, and then showing up another day and saying that they expect justices like Justice Kavanaugh to, quote, step up. I mean, the subtext seems pretty clear.
That doesn't help.
Well, it's remarkably poor strategy. They're used to bullying elected officials who need to run for office in Republican primaries that depend on Trump's blessing. But of course, the justices of the Supreme Court have life tenure, and what they want to establish is that they're independent. So I think that strategy of trying to pressure, bully, or intimidate Justice Kavanaugh is likely to backfire. But while I want to endorse all of the always wise things that Andrew said, I also want to make sure that we don't lose the forest for the trees here, which is that whatever the court does in the details or on the merits, let's just take stock of the fact that we are actually having a national debate about whether one of the likely nominees of a major party for the presidency engaged in insurrection against the United States and is therefore not qualified for running, regardless of the law. Shouldn't that just be politically disqualifying for either party? Don't both parties want people for whom there's not a question as to whether they engaged in insurrection against our country?
I know you ask it as a rhetorical question. I feel like we could spend 15 minutes here answering it. Rev, to the point about not losing the stakes here, not losing the context, I want to read you just a little bit of something Jamel Bowie wrote in the New York Times. What unites Trump with the former secessionists under the disqualification clause is that, like them, he refused to listen to the voice of the voting public. He rejected the bedrock principle of democratic life, the peaceful transfer of power. The unspoken assumption behind the idea that Trump should be allowed on the ballot and that the public should have the chance to choose for or against him yet again is that he will respect the voice of the electorate. But we know this isn't true. It wasn't true after the 2016 presidential election, when after winning the Electoral College, he sought to delegitimize the popular vote victory of his opponent as fraud, and it was put into stark relief after the 2020 presidential election. There is an irony here. He is saying the democratic thing to do is to allow me to be on the ballot. Allow me to be on the ballot in the name of democracy. This coming from a person who tried to overturn a fair and free election.
And I think that is the point. I think that is what needs to be recognized here. And that is that if we give legitimacy to someone that wanted to overthrow the process in the name of the process, then we're playing into the continuation of this kind of chicanery. I mean, like you had in the last part, when you have a lawyer, I mean, I don't know where you get a lawyer that sits there and says, he fought for you, therefore you ought to do him a favor. Not that the law should give him something, but it's like gangsters. You remember me, Joey, from the neighborhood. I mean, what are we talking about if we are going to allow this kind of behavior to become normalized in the body politic? And I think that's what we're saying there, is that we can't normalize this, even though some people feel it's only going to galvanize Trump's base. But what about the regard for law and constitution in this country?
Let's talk about law, constitution, and norms, Andrew Weissman, because yesterday a group of House Democrats called on Clarence Thomas to recuse from this case. Here's what they write in part, quote, "This time we must urge you to recuse yourself from any involvement in the case of Anderson versus Griswold, because your impartiality is reasonably questioned by substantial numbers of fair-minded members of the public who believe your wife, Virginia Ginny Thomas's substantial involvement in the events leading up to the January 6th insurrection and the financial incentive it presents for your household if President Trump is reelected are disqualifying." Any chance he recuses?
None. In a word. I think that what we're unfortunately seeing in the Supreme Court justices is an example of might makes right, which is sort of to Ian's point, truly shocking because it's coming from members of the highest court of the land, meaning, you know what, I'm going to thumb my nose at sort of norms and rules that every other member of the Article 3 judiciary follows. And I would note that the thing that I find sort of most troubling is that we still, to this day, have such a real lack of information.